Impact of integrated problem-based STEM enrichment inquiry activities on STEM career interest in middle grades. Unpublished Master of Education Capstone project, presented by Charlotte Massie for the University of Houston in the spring of 2015. There have been varied methods investigating ways to increase the number of students entering science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, career fields. The purpose of this project was to determine if short, problem-based STEM enrichment activities could increase student interest in pursuing STEM careers, specifically among middle school students of the underrepresented minorities. As the world becomes increasingly technological, the quality and quantity of STEM professionals produced by the United States will determine whether the United States remains a global leader in solving the challenges of the future. Because of this, the demand for STEM graduates is increasing, and the United States has not kept pace with the demand. Several minority groups, Hispanics, African Americans, and Native Americans, are underrepresented in the STEM fields when compared with their representation in the overall population. I chose this area of focus because I am a science teacher at a middle school that serves a population that has a high percentage of minorities, primarily Hispanics and African Americans. A high percentage of these students also qualify for free or reduced lunches. I have seen great curiosity and potential in my students that suggests they might enjoy and be successful in STEM careers. Middle school is a critical time for students because it is during these years that they begin making career decisions. When students lose interest in STEM fields in middle school, they are less likely to enroll in the necessary courses in high school and college that would lead to STEM careers. The United States owes much of its current wealth to science and technology, and in order to compete economically on a global scale in the future, advances in STEM fields must be maintained and improved. Increasing overall knowledge and interest in STEM strengthens the democratic process by enabling citizens to make informed choices and will provide the means to solve the challenges of the future in this increasingly technological and global society. From 1994 to 2003, STEM-related jobs increased from 17% to 23%, but this increase has not kept up with the demand, resulting in a shortage of qualified STEM professionals. Students are losing interest. A survey of 13 to 14-year-olds in 2004 and then again in 2010 found that the percentage of them intending on a STEM career dropped from 28% to 21%. The same study also found that the percentage of these students that did not enjoy learning about science outside of school increased from 50% to 53%. The United States ranks 20th internationally for the proportion of students earning degrees in science or engineering. However, most of those degrees were awarded for medical professions, not for engineering. American students are less likely than students from other developed countries to earn a degree in engineering. All students with a special focus on underrepresented minority groups need to be proficient in STEM subjects to produce a well-informed, STEM-capable citizenry. Underrepresented minority groups are defined as racial or ethnic groups whose representation in science and engineering is smaller than their representation in the overall population. Currently, these groups are Hispanics, African Americans, and Native Americans. There is an interest gap influenced by gender and ethnic background, which limits the participation of underrepresented minorities in STEM careers. This prevents the United States from benefiting from their potential talents, skills, and perspectives in STEM. Underrepresented minorities are less likely than whites to attend or graduate from college, but those that do have degree patterns similar to whites, so it is important to attract these groups through proper exposure, education, and career guidance. Personal interest in a particular field has been cited in multiple works as the primary factor in student choice of college major and career fields. Students lose interest in science because of its complex and abstract nature, and because they are intimidated by complex formulas and calculations. Some students are deterred by the negative results of scientific discoveries, such as nuclear disasters and atomic bombs. However, when science, learned and practiced in school, applies to their daily lives, student interest increases. The pedagogy of poverty are teaching acts that are overly directive, mundane, and authoritarian in nature, such as giving information and grades, monitoring seat work, and punishing noncompliance. The pedagogy of poverty is most often found in low-income urban areas that tend to have an overrepresentation of minority students. These teaching acts contribute to the students' disinterest, but may be overcome by having students actively and directly involved in real-life experiences, inquiry activities, and working in heterogeneous groups. If students are not aware of the available options, interest in STEM careers cannot develop. One reason students pursue STEM careers is their perception of a specific STEM profession and what it does. The original study in 1957 about the student perception of scientists being older white males working alone in a laboratory has persisted for decades with little change. This false perception influences student interest in STEM professions negatively. Students have similar misconceptions of engineers. Many students do not distinguish between science and engineering, or attribute the work of other occupations, such as architects or mechanics, to engineers. If students do not have an accurate idea of what it is scientists and engineers actually do, they cannot be making informed decisions regarding STEM careers. American students decide early in their education that STEM subjects are boring, too difficult, or unwelcoming. Their interest declines despite an increasing perception of the importance and usefulness of science. Children begin to develop their academic abilities and are in transition to exploration between the ages of 12 and 14. Career decisions begin to be made as early as middle school. A survey in Oklahoma found that 40% of the surveyed children had already started having serious discussions with their parents about career options while in middle school. A lack of exposure to STEM career options at this age leads some students that may be STEM inclined to choose other career pathways. Student interest increased after STEM education programs held on Saturdays and during the summer, but it is difficult to obtain funding and human resources support to implement this on a wider scale. STEM games and virtual apprenticeships do show potential, but they are as yet relatively unexplored and have limited reliability. Guest speakers did positively influence some students' perceptions, but costs and limited availability of local STEM professionals prevents wide-scale implementation. Video recordings of STEM professionals increased interest, but the effect was small. STEM academies were found to have a positive impact on student attitudes, but again, the impracticality of wide-scale implementation is limiting. Inquiry-based learning is defined as students engaging in group work and hands-on activities, supporting conclusions with evidence, and discussing ideas with peers while the teacher is facilitating and guiding students through the challenges. Inquiry-based activities have been linked to increased positive attitudes towards STEM, but have not yet been linked to STEM career goals. Problem-based and project-based learning activities are constructivist approaches that organize self-learning through activities and discussions that integrate two or more subject areas. Integration of STEM subjects has been shown to significantly influence positive student attitudes towards STEM careers. It is important for teachers to properly implement these types of activities. One study found that minority student interest decreased when a project-based science curriculum was implemented and noted that the teachers felt rushed and cut out several critical parts that negated the curriculum's intended effect. This project was conducted at a high minority, low socioeconomic campus in a large suburban district in Texas. Built into the school day is an advisory period of 20 minutes. One teacher's advisory class was used as the experimental group, with the rest of the teacher's students used as the control group. Both groups had the same teacher for science. All students were invited to participate, but only data from the underrepresented minority groups was used for analysis. The students participated in one activity each week for 5 weeks, which were not tied to grades. The activities were designed to be completed in 15-minute segments. One activity spanned 2 days. 2 forms of data were collected: a word association with STEM careers and a Likert-type survey to determine student interest in STEM and STEM careers. The word association was analyzed using a word cloud generator to determine trends in student thinking. For the survey questions, the percentage of students responding with a 3 or 4 on the scale was calculated. Data was compared within groups to determine how the students' interest in STEM changed over the 5 weeks. Data was compared between the experimental and control groups to determine the impact of the activities on STEM interest. These are the word clouds generated from the students' word association with STEM careers. The size of the text correlates with the number of times a word was typed. I corrected for spelling and removed extraneous words, such as when the students responded with complete sentences instead of just brainstorming the words. Advisory group responses are on the left. Non-advisory group responses are on the right. Responses from before the activity series are on top, while the post-series responses are on the bottom. This allows a holistic overview of possible perception changes. These graphs show how student responses to the survey changed after the activity series. Survey questions were asked for each component of STEM individually. From left to right, are you planning to have a career in STEM? Are you planning to take advanced STEM classes in high school? STEM is important. STEM is interesting. If STEM was more interesting, I would be more likely to want a STEM career. Everyone should learn about STEM. The advisory group had overall positive change for science. The one area that showed negative change was everyone should learn about science. The non-advisory group had overall negative change except for the area of if science was more interesting, I would be more likely to want a science career. For technology, the advisory group showed total positive changes. The one negative area for the non-advisory group was everyone should learn about technology. The advisory group for engineering showed negative changes in all areas except if engineering was more interesting, I would be more likely to want an engineering career. The non-advisory group had mixed results, showing negative changes in engineering career plans, engineering is important, and engineering is interesting. The other areas showed positive changes. The advisory group for mathematics showed total positive changes, while the non-advisory group showed positive change in only one area. Are you planning to have a career in mathematics? This was less than a 3% change, however. This project was designed to investigate the impact of problem-based STEM enrichment inquiry activities on the interest in STEM careers among underrepresented minority middle school students. This project was largely successful, not only in counteracting the predicted decline in STEM interest in middle school, but in increasing both interest and career plan likelihood. The results of the non-advisory group supports the idea that despite student understanding of the importance of science, interest declines in middle school. While more than 90% thought that science was important throughout the study, interest levels declined by more than 11% in just 5 weeks. Similar patterns were found for engineering and mathematics. Technology was the one area of STEM in which most perception changes were positive by both groups. The word association also supports other research showing students' waning interest in STEM or the perception that it is too boring or difficult. The words boring, hard, and even hate are more prominent in the later submissions. This correlates with the decreasing percentages of students planning on taking advanced STEM classes in high school, which might lead to STEM careers. The advisory group's perception of STEM showed overall positive change for science, technology, and mathematics. Engineering declined in all surveyed areas except for one. The word association for engineering supports research that illustrates the lack of understanding among students as to what engineers really do. Many students wrote words that might be more closely associated with architects or mechanics. This capstone project relates to 3 topics from the professional seminars: best practices, social justice, and research. This entire project is focused on best practices and social justice by investigating the pedagogical practices that are most likely to encourage underrepresented minorities to pursue the STEM professions that are well paid with high growth potential. I utilized a mixed research design approach for this project. By combining both the qualitative word association and the quantitative survey, I was able to gain a better insight into why students responded to the survey the way they did. This project reinforced the idea that I already had about the students that I teach. They deserve better educational opportunities, and now that I have seen how much difference a total of 90 minutes of problem and inquiry-based activities can have on my students, I am determined to find ways to incorporate more of them into my teaching and to encourage my fellow teachers to follow suit. This was a rather small study with a very small experimental group size and was conducted over a small time span. The results, however, are promising and support further investigation. Since the activities were conducted in increments of 15 minutes, it seems probable that science and mathematics teachers could be able to incorporate similar activities into their curriculum on a weekly or bi-weekly basis without significantly impacting their regular lesson plans. Care should be taken when selecting activities, as students may not be successful within the given time frame, which could lead to frustration and resignation from the activity. The activities should be conducted in a student-centered and inquiry-based or problem-based environment. This is a critical component for underrepresented minorities, which tend to come from the pedagogy of poverty.